All right, let's get to The Place Beyond the Pines. This one came out in 2012, done by Cianfrance, of course. Stars Ryan Gosling again, Bradley Cooper, Eva Mendes, Mahershala Ali, Ben Mendelsohn, Dane DeHaan, and a few others. And the synopsis is a motorcycle stunt rider turns to robbing banks as a way to provide for his ex and their newborn, a decision that sets him on a collision course with an ambitious rookie cop navigating a department ruled by a corrupt detective. This one I did talk about on the show at some point. I can't remember where, but as anyone who follows me on Letterboxd, anyone who knows me personally, this is one of my all-time favorite movies, probably top 3, top 4. When I first saw it, I really enjoyed it. And like I said earlier, it was around the time where I was just starting to get interested in movies. So maybe it stuck out to me more for that reason. But even though I didn't watch it for maybe 4 or 5 years, it really stuck with me. That's when it just embedded itself in my brain. And there was something about it that really drew me back. And I don't know exactly what it is about the last couple of years that have heightened it, but I became pretty much obsessed with this movie. For one thing, I have a lot of tattoos, especially on my arms. I have probably 7 or 8 tattoos from this movie that Ryan Gosling has. The look of his character, the costume designer, hairstylist, whatever, it is a perfect character design in terms of maintaining a reality for a character who's also very, not heightened, but very rebellious, very punk, very uncommon. But I never for once questioned that he was not a real person, even with his crazy tattoos, his hair, his ridiculous clothes. You feel like this could be a real person. And that's partly Ryan Gosling. I think this is his best performance that he's ever done to date. One thing that Derek Cianfrance does really well that I think sets him apart in some ways in terms of his ideas and themes is he seems to have this love and interest in longevity and generations and one thing being passed to another and fate. Because, for example, with this movie, one part that always sticks out to me is when Ryan Gosling's character goes on the last bank robbery before he's killed, he forgets his glasses, and then his son, decades later, finds them in his trailer at Ben Mendelsohn's house. And that's something that feels so real because, you know, anyone who lost a family member, a loved one, whatever it might be, and you finding things years later, decades later, and thinking, how did this get here? Did they leave this for me? Was this just a coincidence? Was it a mistake? Is this something meaningful to them? Is it not? And you carrying that with you or whatever it might be and keeping that belonging with you. I think that's all of his movies are just filled with these very touching, human, authentic moments that I don't care if it's sad. I don't care if it's depressing and tragic. There's just for anyone who appreciates realism and wants to see an authentic story told about people, normal people, he is the one to go to. And this movie is a great example of that. The movie is really separated into 3 distinctive acts where Ryan Gosling is the first one, Bradley Cooper is the second, and then Dane DeHaan is the third. And I love that. Some people find that makes the movie feel long. On rewatches, I don't really feel that way. I think when I first saw it, I felt that way. By the time we got to the third act, I was like, all right, this is a little too long for me, but now I don't really have any issues with that. The first act is my favorite if I had to pick. Ryan Gosling's character and his performance is, I don't want to sound too repetitive, but it's amazing. It's really one of my all-time favorite characters and performances ever. His relationship with Eva Mendes is really interesting, where he just shows up at the house one night and then the mother or family member is like, here's your baby, basically, you know, that you didn't know you had. And that's a great what the hell moment that sets the rest of the movie off. His bank robberies with Ben Mendelsohn, or because of Ben Mendelsohn, are incredibly well done. The action sequences, the motorcycle chases where he's speeding off down the highway and getting into the trailer truck, which is a genius idea in terms of bank robberies and not being noticed. Then the final chase where things go wrong and he's driving through the graveyard and through the neighborhood. And then the final sequence where he and Bradley Cooper meet, that is just so compelling, so intense, nail biting, unsettling, visceral. I wish Derek Cianfrance would do more action like this because he doesn't really have any other action in his movies, and he clearly has a knack for it. So all the bank robbery stuff is awesome. I love that part of the movie. The score is really good. That iconic theme when Ryan Gosling is driving down the country road, and then it also repeats when Dane DeHaan's character, the son, rides down it later on in the movie. I love that. This is easily one of Bradley Cooper's best performances, where he starts out as this normal rookie cop, and then he ends up killing a guy, and he lies about it because of whatever reason, and that idea of fate where he never wanted to kill this guy, he didn't mean to, I guess you could say, and then by the end of the movie he's running for, I think, senator or Congress, something along those lines, and that never would have happened if that hadn't happened to him. He would have just gone on, been a normal cop, and he wouldn't have gotten involved with Ray Liotta's character and all that. So it's a pretty masterclass example of storytelling in terms of taking one idea or a few ideas and really expanding on it and making it your own, and telling a very unique story and telling it in a very unique structure as well. So I really can't say enough about the movie. There's so many memorable scenes. One of my favorite acting moments ever, and I don't know why it is, and it's one of the reasons why I love Ryan Gosling and why I love Derek Cianfrance, but the moment where he's in the diner with Eva Mendes and he's saying, I want to take care of you. I want to make money so I can take care of you and our son. Let's leave. Let's get out of here. And she says, well, how are you going to take care of us? Like in a very condescending way. And he has this subtle restraint that makes him come across, he has the inner child in him where he's not fully mature, even though he obviously is an adult, but he shakes his head a little bit and just says, don't talk down to me. And obviously I'm not doing it any justice. I'm not trying to, but that moment in the movie is so touching and evocative for whatever reason, in the quietest, subtlest way, that I'm waiting for that scene to happen every time I watch it with someone. And there are a million of those. Ben Mendelsohn is an amazing character actor. I love seeing him in everything. Mahershala Ali is really good. This was one of Dane DeHaan's breakout performances, and he's really good. The son of Bradley Cooper, he's pretty good in the movie. He's very douchey and an asshole, and he's gone on to be in a lot of other things where he looks completely different. I know he was in Brooklyn where he looks completely different. He's really good in the movie. It's just a fantastic film that I don't think it's enough credit. I can understand why some people don't love it in terms of structure or the tone of it, whatever, but it's a pretty unique movie in terms of crime, mystery, thriller, drama, character dramas. It's hard to beat this movie in terms of character development and writing and connections. It's really a masterclass in that. As I said, the final act, which is short, with Dane DeHaan and Bradley Cooper's son, is really interesting, where Dane DeHaan doesn't know about the family of the other guy, and then he finds out, and then that all sets him on a new road. So really, it's one piece after another where something happens and it completely changes your life forever. And I think anyone who's lived long enough can realize that, where you weren't expecting this to happen, you weren't expecting this person to die, to meet this person, but then you wake up one day and your life is totally different. So that I can absolutely relate to. Not saying that's a bad thing. It's just that's what happens. That's part of life, and that's can be a good thing or a bad thing for some. And I like where Dane DeHaan goes to get the motorcycle from the guy, and then he just rides off into the distance, leaving Eva Mendes, and just says, you don't know what he says in that letter, but you definitely can infer from context. When Bradley Cooper's character is in dealings with Ray Liotta's group of corrupt cops, I really like that part. And Ray Liotta, R.I.P., he's a great character actor for mobsters. Not criticize him or make him seem worse as a person than he is, but corrupt cops and anything in that world, he's just a master at doing that. And he's very, very memorable in this. And Bradley Cooper's suspicions about what's going on with him, and then him ratting out these people and the after effects of that. So there's a lot to unpack with each character. And I love how each act does follow a certain person, because whenever I watch it for the first time, everyone is thinking, as I did, you're with Ryan Gosling the whole time. And then when you see him dead on the cement, people are like, wait, what? And I just got to say, yeah, he's gone. Sorry. So I really like that. That's a gutsy move that you don't see very often as well. And I can never say enough about Ryan Gosling's character. And for some reason, I don't relate to him as if I've gone through the same things he has, but there's an incredible amount of resonance and weight and sadness and tragedy and realism to that character, despite him being very over the top in terms of his look and overall design. I love the tattoos. I love his baggy shirts and inside out shirts and not tie dyed jeans, but paint covered jeans. And whoever the costume designer was, huge round of applause. I love that character and everything about that character. So yeah, definitely give it a watch. It's one that you, as with all these movies, you got to sit with, you got to be ready for. It's very heavy and dramatic. There's not a lot of humor in these movies, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be for a story like this. So that is a heavy 5 out of 5.